What is happening, budget builders, and welcome back to the Plymouth Duster Rescue. This is a 1971 Plymouth Duster that had been sitting since at least 1998. This thing had been neglected and forgotten, and in our last episode we dragged this thing out and we got it running for the first time in at least 25 years. Y'all ready to see what happens? Got a really neat hopped up 225 Slant 6 that's all decked out in 80s, 90s goodies. And we're really excited in this episode to get this car cleaned up, to build the brakes, get some wheels and tires on it, and see how it performs. I definitely think first thing in this episode though, we got to get this thing cleaned up and washed. I am so excited to see how it looks. It's one of those, Mopar had some really cool colors back in the 60s and especially 70s. And this right here is an EV2, which is Hemi orange, I believe, in Dodge, but on Plymouth is called Tor Red, but it's very orange. And I think it's neat, it's wacky, it's silly, and I love it. And let's get this thing cleaned up. Wow, what a difference, and that really gets me excited for this car. It took a lot. That pressure washer didn't even want to touch this stuff, and of course we whipped out the good old Amazon special magic erasers, a lot of elbow grease, wore a ton of them out. We got this thing looking pretty sharp, and I want to go farther. As you can see, I kind of wet sanded the corner there, buffed a little bit, and I am so excited for the way this car is going to transform. But out comes the sun. We've got to take care and figure out these brakes. We got to get this thing on the road and then clean the inside out, get all the nooks and crannies taken care of before we start trying to buff and wax. We'll just make a complete mess if we don't do it step for step. So I think our next step, if you can't tell, these brakes are locked up solid, except for this one over here. This wheel actually spins quite freely. So we've got to get all these off. I have a feeling we're gonna have to beat and mangle these drums off. Let's get all the parts we need on order so we can get these brakes taken care of. More drum. This thing's so clean under here. Why are they blue? Looks like those got done yesterday. Whew, crunchy. There's your self-adjuster and your adjuster. Oh my goodness. Sheesh. Woohoo! With both rear drums off, a little crusty, but we'll get it taken care of. I am kind of excited to see what rear end we have here. We can go ahead and check and see if we have posi, and we can check and see what our gear ratio is. More than likely, one wheel peel, more than likely like a 270 something. This is reverse.
It's not moving. It's forward. That's reverse, forward. And this is forward.
That's forward.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one wheel peel.
It is.
One. It's a quarter. 1 1/4. What in the world? Well, I looked and apparently 1.3 turns is 276. I guess that's just how the gearing works on one of these. You'll learn something new every day, and that's what it's all about. So we've got a 276 open stock rear end. So hopefully this motor makes a lot of power and this thing's really fast. Yeah, I don't think we'd gotten any of those brakes working. Ow, something cool when getting to do these brakes. We get to be kind of high class with a set of actual brake tools. Big Ed from Miniature Makeover Mechanics sent us these. He said he was flinching a little bit seeing us use pliers and screwdrivers with building brakes, and it's definitely understandable. It's slightly sketchy. This will definitely make this job so much easier and quite a bit safer. As many drum brake as we do, this is definitely an extremely handy set of tools to have. So huge shout out to him. Thank you so much. This is to push in your little spring retainer clips. That's gonna be super handy. You always see us pushing in with our fingers and stuff, or pliers, and those shooting everywhere. Obviously this is a spoon for spinning your adjuster, which I don't think we'll adjust that one any. This is a fancy spring tool. We're gonna have to do a quick history lesson on how to use this. Get it figured out. We'll get this thing pulled apart. That's the coolest thing. You've got to be kidding me. Where have these been all my life? Oh my goodness. That's so awesome. We did something we don't normally do on these and splurged a little bit. Picked up an adjuster kit that came with our adjuster, our new cable and everything. And we picked up a spring kit, just one set. We're about $12 extra per corner, but they were so bad condition. There was no way we were gonna get our adjuster freed up, and our cables were all either snapped or close to snapping. Our brakes are something you don't want to take lightly. If you're gonna spend a little extra money, do it right here. We don't have to go, but we always need to stop. When you're going back together, don't forget you have two different size brake pads, BB, big back. Your larger one goes in the rear. Oh, I'm so spoiled. Rears are nearly identical other than your emergency brake. You've got a little spring washer that goes right here. There you go. What's crazy is doing this with these new tools and realizing I built my first set of drum brakes when I was 15 on my 1963 F100. At the end of June, I turned 27, so that was almost 12 years ago. So needless to say, I feel spoiled. Well, that's no good. Some pretty poor brake line. And if you can tell, just barely moving up in the car, just disintegrated. So we're literally gonna have to do most of this. We need to keep the junction box, but of course these hoses, even if they look decent, you can see this one's not great at all. They're metal lined, so the rust on the inside there, if you can see, just completely rust up and blocks off the hose. So even if you get brakes, it's very, very weak. I also noticed right down there, all those wet lines, just moving these lines around a little bit just to get the hoses and stuff and the wheel cylinders off. They're kind of just disintegrating. Some of it's pretty good shape still. The coiled stuff, I think, just holds and traps moisture and junk down in them. Lets those lines rust apart. Holy moly. As nice as the brakes are, I'm sure there's nothing wrong here with this master cylinder. I'm sure there's everything wrong with this master cylinder. Drums cleaned up surprisingly well. Some very slight pitting, but pretty smooth, and anything else should clean up no problem. What you want to go ahead and do now, obviously self-adjusters, once you get the car moving down the road a few times backing up, those will kick out to where they need to be. But we want it to do as little work as possible. Obviously it takes a while sometimes to do that. You run it out till you just barely scuff, but spin nice and freely. And once bled up, those brakes should feel pretty good. I am making a darn mess. Sheesh. And then back off about 1/8 to 1/4 turn. Arguably some of the worst brakes we've gotten into in a while. Pretty pleased with the outcome though. They cleaned up nicely. They took a lot of work. We obviously had to do quite a bit more lines than we expected. And then obviously all new hoses and master cylinder. Let's go ahead and start pumping it up a bit. Let's see if they'll take a bleed.
You sure you don't want to just sit down in that seat there?
Oh, it's like brand new now.
Climb on in there. How's that pedal feel?
Oh, what the world?
That seat, what? That's a weird.
Well,
Oh man, it goes to the floor.
start over.
Go ahead. There's some air in again, please. Oh yeah. And again, please. Wow, that was fast. Nice. Well, let's make a mess. These fronts are ratchet only. Go ahead, please. And again, please.
Whoa. Where'd that come from, Tim?
Out of it, we'd blow a line out. Yeah, I guess we should have replaced every single last line, because that was our last one. And it just blew out. With all brand new lines, hopefully we'll be okay now.
How's that pedal feel? That's a nice pedal.
Yeah, hard as a rock.
Woo! Okay, that was a lot, but they're done and they feel good. Before we go ahead and stick wheels and tires back on this car,
If you can't tell, that is straight. That's very much not.
and that is because when we were trying to pull this thing out, these brakes were so bad, so locked up so hard, it actually bent that outer tie rod right there. So for the time being, we don't have a replacement. We'll go ahead and just take our jam nuts loose. Let's back that thing back out to open it back up to where it should be. And that is something before we do any kind of major driving or anything. You don't want to bend it back because you take the possibility of damaging structural integrity. It's bent a little bit. It'll be fine for driving around until we can go ahead and get a new one in there. We do want to adjust it, otherwise we're just going to be dragging those tires.
You can give these a try. So what this is just some cheap Amazon plate thingies you put on the lug nuts, and then we can run a tape measure side to side.
Okay.
Man, that's pretty close.
Once we get everything replaced and addressed up here, maybe we can get the exact alignment specs and do a proper home alignment. Brakes functioning, car aligned. Let's go and get some wheels and tires back on this thing and get it put back down. I'm excited to see this thing up off of the ground other than on jack stands. Now for a first initial test drive, we're not gonna go spend a ton of money on wheels and tires and stuff yet. That rear end's obviously a little funky. Which reminds me, we do need to check that fluid before we try to drive this thing, just in case we have to swap something out. We might change up our lug pattern stuff. This is that weird 5x4 inch odd year Mopar kind of deal. So we used our factory ones and we rummaged through our wheel and tire pile. It's just a half-inch drive. Oh. It smells like it's not that low and it's not that burnt.
That's nice. That's crazy. Some 15x10s with some big old chunker tires. But we gotta see if this thing has the power to move it. But before that, I went ahead and just cut the wires, pulled this old fan out. It is just junk. And picked up a junkyard OEM one. I like a mechanical fan better anyways. I'm gonna jump in here with our new tight wrench, extendable wrench. And this has got to be one of the handiest little tools we've been using around here lately, just for getting to stuff like this, and even like especially at the back of your transmission and stuff. And huge thank you to them for sending these things out, because it makes jobs like this so much easier, because otherwise I couldn't get this back in there and we'd be ratcheting it all the way out. I remember seeing them from some SEMA videos and thinking just how cool this tool is, and they actually reached out to us and sent us out some goodies. And what I really appreciate about them is they're budget friendly. They're not ridiculously expensive tools that you're just gonna throw in your toolbox, use for one job. They have so many handy little purposes. Their extendable clamps are perfect for biting down on spring clamps, getting a hold of hot exhaust manifold bolts. And where I found these little guys extremely useful is on Volkswagens, which we really like working on apparently. They've got a lot of blind bolts, especially like alternator bolts and stuff, that you got to get down in and push through on your back of your injection pump. You grab one side of that bolt, hold it, push it through, and then you can tighten the other end, especially things like up under that injection pump there. And I cannot thank them enough for thinking of us, sending them out. And if you guys want some of these for yourselves, go to their website, Tight Reach. I'll put a link to it. If you decide to get some of these, make sure you use code BUDGET at checkout. I think a convenience would be able to, I cannot talk. I think a convenience would be able, would, I think something extremely convenient would be a, I think something that would be extremely convenient is being able to check the oil on this thing. Literally the only dipstick we could find is this guy here, and this is from Aussie Speed. Of course they got some 6-cylinder goodies. Beautiful. I just came to the realization that we don't have any kind of throttle cable bracket. And the cable's good, but we're gonna have to make some kind of bracketry. In the car we found this factory single barrel bracket, and the holes are right to go right there, but then the cable shoots straight up, and it needs to be here. So I wonder if we can put a plate across and I can weld it to the bottom here. After all that careful planning and engineering, we should have checked to see if the bolt worked. I tried, and sure enough it broke. So I went ahead, drilled it out, installed a fancy new one. Wow, that's pretty. Throttle pedal, brakes. I guess we should have bought a battery tray, but 2x4 should do well. Battery is properly secured. Jumper for the ignition coil. Fuel line, run to our gas tank. Jumpers to our little jet ski battery. And after all this is said and done, at the end of the day, we don't know if this thing moves at all. Have we checked the transmission fluid? Some came out when we were messing with the line, which is obviously still looped, but for the little bit of driving we'll be doing today and it's not super hot, this should not be an issue. That's nice. I'm not sure you can see. It's not terrible, but there's definitely some stuff down in there. Woo! Sucked pretty clean fluid right out. That's awesome. What an awesome little motor. Oh my goodness, that.
No, and this thing is goofy. We're gonna lose this down in it.
About 15. Not horrible though. Wow. I thought that alternator felt a little rough. It sounds rough. This thing runs good. There's reverse. Drive. Oh, we just blew a line or something. Yeah. This thing puked its guts. We got that looped. I wonder why that hose was leaking. And while we were messing with that, I don't know if we left this hooked up or what. Because it's not, maybe it was sitting on it, yeah. And the coil blew up, which it was already cracked and close to it. And it's gone now. Oh my goodness. Are we gonna drive this thing today or what? Yep. Yeah, we are. Wow, look how cracked up. And it is hot as a firecracker. It's not super like the other one, but it is what it is. With the fluid full, we did have to adjust that dipstick just a little bit as it was a universal one and they had it about 3 inches off. So we have it topped up now. It goes in gear, it's not leaking, and this thing is running better and better the more that it sits here and runs. I don't know about y'all, we're ready to see if this thing will drive. Let's do this. We are backing up. It moves. This is exciting.
This thing's a hot rod. Smells like straight rat pee. Is it fast? I think we just need to do some tuning and work on the vacuum advance, and it will be. What a fun car. It runs great. I'm hoping we can dial it in a bit. That slush box definitely isn't helping anything. Sounds so good though. Stops great, backup lights work, brake lights work. This thing is so ready to be back on the road.
Oh, oops. Go ahead. What a wonderful car. It's a good looking car, I'll give it that. Not that it doesn't go down the road good. I think I just hyped this thing up a little bit too much in my own head. Realistically, at the end of the day, it feels just like you would expect a bone stock Slant 6 automatic 276 Plymouth Duster to feel. There's gotta be more there. There has to be. And we've got to figure out what is going on. Let's check our timing. Let's see if we can get that advance working. Kind of dial it in and make sure we are coming up to where we should be. You know, Dad just made a point. We were talking about the Firebird over there. It's got a 241 rear end, and it's quicker than this. It's also V8, but it was pitifully slow with an automatic. It sure was. So that might be making V8 horsepower. So I got line to it. Let's see if it does anything. The diaphragm's good because it pulls and holds vacuum, but the advance is not moving at all. Very minute. We were able to take our little pick and that hole was just completely blocked off. And that thing was pretty stuck, but I think we got it freed up a little bit. We are definitely getting better and better. I think Dad and I have talked it over, and one of our next things we should probably just go ahead and take a look at is our valve adjustment. It would seem this engine had been put in here not long before the car got parked, and you just never know, especially with solid lifters. So it looks like you're looking for 10 intake and 20 exhaust. We are huge there. That's a 3/8. Wow, we are sloppy on the exhaust too, aren't we? 6. Wowee. Those were a little all over the place. so much quieter. Oh yeah, all dropping. It is surprisingly actually quite a bit better. I don't know if you can tell, just kind of pulling down. Obviously having a tack would be really good. That rear end ratio is horrible, and that automatic's pitiful. Is it
Do a lot better at a 4-speed.
I think that automatic's killing it.
It's got a little premature shifting, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, you gotta manually shift this thing to feel anything, and even at that, stops really good. It looks good going up and down the road, and it is back on the road for the first time in at least 26 years. And I am so excited to cut and buff and wax and clean out this interior. And we might start toying around with the idea of putting a 4-speed in this thing. But it's a cool car. It deserved to be back on the road, and that's just what we're gonna do. I really hope you all have enjoyed this episode and the rescue to this point. If you have, and you wanna see more on this rebuild and our other rebuilds, be sure to subscribe button and notification bell to keep up with our future uploads. And if you haven't a part of the channel, we do appreciate it so incredibly much. We get to bring these forgotten rides back to life because of each and every one of you. So thank you all so much. Peace out, and catch you all on the flip side.